Drahé dámy, milí páni,
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to welcome you in this very last panel. And you see a kind of slimming of the panel. As Yvette spoke about instability of her panel, we have something similar, unfortunately. There were some technical problems. We are not able to present you a video from Dr. Nehru. Also, the Lord Mayor of Piešťany, Mr. Jančovič, told us a while ago that he's still at cabinet meeting, but hopefully he will join us. And Monsignor Gavenda is preparing today for Saturday when the gentleman will be interpreting the funeral of Holy Father. So, okay, we slim down, but perhaps we may have richer and more dynamic discussion with Alexandra and Mitch. Miodrag Vlahomic is a former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Montenegro. It is the minister who, together with our High Commissioner, Mr. Ladislav Lajčák, have managed to arrange that Montenegro is an independent state. And Alexandra will surely share with us some very interesting issues. Our panel is going to focus on innovation, citizenship principle, and sustainable development. So green agenda is on the table as well. And future, I think all panels have already said it, that future is not something that happens itself, but something that he has to create jointly. And the key question is, how may we cooperate so that we progress, in particularly at time when many people, in particular in Central Europe, perceive future as insecure. And there are many friends who either left Slovakia or are thinking of leaving. So the discussion is about how to inspire all young of us to inspire all of us for the thought of Europe, so that we push things forward, and how to take care of our planet, how to stay creative, and how to create new ideas, maybe companies of the new type who would not focus only on profit, although profit is clearly for them important, but not only, and how to create such future when all of us may feel hope and want to stay here. A future based on respect, mutuality. So, Mitchell will the first one to start, and we will build upon what you said.
Talking about budúcnosť, talking about the future, I have detected, I thought before coming here to Bratislava that I know about the Slovak language only two things, that you have that you beside the Slovenian you have singular, dual and plural, and you are together with Croats the only people not saying kangaroo but klokan. But I have understood that I do understand half of what you are saying. Yeah, it's very similar language to our language. or vice versa, especially when we talk about politics. So thank you for mentioning Miro Lajčák and the fact that we actually had an enormous support by the Slovak diplomats and diplomacy as a whole back in 2004, 2005 and 2006 when Montenegro was deciding on regaining of independence. And let us not, in that particular context, let us not forget our dear friend and my personal even teacher in some aspects, Ambassador František Lipka, who was actually an aide to Miro Lajčák, to Miroslav Lajčák, who is, by the way, now in Ljubljana, if I'm not mistaken. We should meet tomorrow when he returns. So in the context of our talks, I thought that we have a new context. And all the things we have discussed today, and we have heard a lot of interesting and even new ideas. Actually, we have the situation in which the new global context, or geostrategic context, or European context, among other things, requires new ideas, new responses to the situations which until very recently actually were understood by most of us as something which is there given to for years and which is going to last for years in front of us, which is fortunately, unfortunately, depending on the point of observation, not the case. So in a very brief telegraphic kind of enumeration like overview, what is actually geostrategic or continental European context we live in, and which is actually the basis for all the reasonings, all the projections we should do, even in the context of participation of citizens in democratic processes, in their communication, in their cooperation, even beside the national boundaries. So first of all, we have, as we all know, fortunately or unfortunately enough, I'm in the group of those who consider that a very unfortunate development. We have a new nationalism, new isolationism in the United States. Something which I consider, I'm among the people which considers that a historic regression, something which is extremely dangerous not only for the internal socio-economic and cultural and political developments of the United States itself, but also for the Euro-Atlantic community as a whole. So that is something which should not actually be omitted in our observation of the European context of the present situation. So we have America, which we have not had. Mr. Trump is going to celebrate, inverted commas, and we all together with him 100 days in the office just in a few days' time. So in the last 3 months, plus minus, we have witnessed, unfortunately, a very dramatic historic shift in the wrong direction. That is number one. Number two is actually related to EU itself. So in between the parentheses, in the brackets, coming from the outskirts of Europe, from the European suburb, which is Western Balkans, so from the country which is a candidate for membership but not a member, and looking at these kind of processes from our side, and with due respect and with my apology, Europe can be the European Union, that is, could be described now as a community which is in crisis. The first element we have mentioned, there is no America we were used to, Europeans were used to work with, first. Second, there is the crisis of decision-making process procedures, a very dramatic one, where, of course, since I'm in Slovakia, I should not, how to say, enter into digression to criticize Mr. Fico and the present government, which would not be correct, neither diplomatic nor politically speaking. But on the other, I could actually easily criticize Hungarian position and the overall attitude of Orban's government. So we have the situation, long story short, in European Union in which the de facto veto of Hungary is actually a serious obstacle, or any country for that matter, a serious obstacle in execution of certain policies which are actually of strategic relevance for the future of the European Union as such. That is the second element. And the third one is actually about the capacity, interest, incentive, a philosophy, if even, of the EU enlargement. Or in other words, whether Europe, as we speak, is actually not only interested, whether it's capable, whether it has remained or retained capacity to enlarge. And what enlargement as such, not only in physical terms or in the number of member countries, member states, means for the future of Europe. I am among the people who believe that that is one of the parameters which actually is a clear, direct indicator whether European Union as a whole is a viable organism or not. I'm among the people, and I know that I'm among the friends who believe that enlargement is something which not only shows the ability to accumulate new members, but also the capacity to show the efficiency, the very reason of existence of European Union. And that is also in crisis. So in that particular context, we have, with certain simplification, which you will forgive me for being so free to simplify these kind of things, into two main groups. The first one with the new government in Berlin, and in the brackets, in this new constellation on global level, it's not only Brussels, which is now actually the most important how to say, center place or decision-making venue in European Union. We are now primarily talking, with due respect to all others, about Paris and Berlin. So as we speak now in Berlin, in Paris we have a government which has shown, not only with the leadership of President Macron and also our dear friend Prime Minister Bayrou. I think France has had a certain historic confirmation of certain old positions of France, which were doubted some 40 years ago, 50 years ago, as something which is not exactly in favor of Euro-Atlantic partnership and community. Long story short, General President de Gaulle was shown right with half a century delay. He was right in certain aspects. But we have Berlin, and we have a new government there, and again, with certain simplification, what they are saying in their policy papers about the foreign policy of the new German government, they are actually advocating the idea, more or less visibly, it's also in the lines, but also in between the lines, that the enlargement is de facto off, that there should be found a certain a sui generis model how the countries of Western Balkans, as well as Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia, could be in some kind of very specific communication cooperation with the European Union, but not exactly European Union members in foreseeable future. Because I believe that German friends consider these problems I have mentioned before as a matter of priority to be decided or to be discussed and decided and resolved before the enlargement is going to be applied afterwards. So the first things first in the context of reorganization of European Union decision-making process, also the defense element, which I don't want to enter because it's a too complicated and kind of long point. Nevertheless, we have the new, to repeat, we have the new German position which says that there should be engagement with the non-EU member countries, but not to the extent of their membership in EU. And on the other side, which is to my modest understanding was a kind of positive surprise, because also I'm among the people who are not exactly delighted by the performance of a new enlargement commissioner after the disastrous mandate of Mr. Varhedi. We have a lady, Madame Marta Kos, who has compromised her, I would say, position in first public appearances. She visited Montenegro saying that we are the front runners. Then she visited Tirana, Albania, saying that Albania is the front runner, so on and so forth. But among other things, at the end, she said something which has certain relevance. She said that, and that is actually directly opposing in, if you want, conceptual way, the German position, which I nominated. And that is, she said that the enlargement is actually a process of geostrategic interest. So parallelly, she's also talking about this merit-based advancement of the candidate countries, that you should fulfill all the chapters and there should be a focused effort on the EU agenda and so on and so forth. But in the same time, she has mentioned not only once but twice that it's a geostrategic process, which in translation to common normal political language is actually something that could be described as EU, instead of all these parameters, procedures, step-by-step chapters and everything, should actually apply the reasoning which was present when Bulgaria and Romania were assumed. So, long story short, neither Romania nor Bulgaria at the moment of membership, they were not ready to be members, but there was a decision that it is needed to assume them in order not to have the opposite scenario. That is, they to actually go back under the umbrella, inverted commas, of Russian Federation, or to fall back under the influence or zone of sphere of interest of Russian Federation. I believe that with intention or without that, Mrs. Kos has told the truth. And that is something we should pay attention to. So in the paper announcing this particular panel, there are two things which I find crucial ones. So one point says international communication, and the other one is new ideas. So in this context, I would like to end, having in mind all these parameters of the situation in general, we should try to find a way together, and I believe that not only in Piešťany last time and now here in Bratislava, but also with the International of the Institute of European Democrats, we actually should concentrate and should try to find a way to have a result of our conversations in some kind of policy paper recommendation. Also on the issues where I'm not an expert, like a new, more efficient participation of citizens in democratic process as such. And last but not the least, if you allow me, thanking you for your attention. Yesterday evening with our dear friend Ivo Kaplan, with Signor Nicolini, with Maria, we have actually discussed, and with other friends here from Bratislava, from Slovakia, we have discussed one of our ideas where I see the possibility for communication and cooperation among the citizens from different European regions. And for the new ideas, plural, we have this initiative to create something which would be some kind of think tank / portal / analytical basis, where the experts, analysts, commentators, political commentators, economic commentators from our countries, meaning Western Balkan countries, Visegrad 4 countries, Baltic countries, should actually stick together and trying to define or to explain to ourselves, to themselves and to the others what's going on in our countries and what are the best way, and I end with that, to actually improve the situation and better to make Europeans to understand us, so Brussels, Berlin and Paris to understand the situation in our countries better, because I believe, and I mean what I say, I believe that Central European countries, Baltic countries, understand Western Balkans better than the rest of Europe. And we should actually, without, with due respect to all the others, for me, for us, it has been always easier to explain the Western Balkan situation to our friends from Slovakia or Czechia or Poland or Hungary than to go to Paris or Madrid or Lisbon to explain to them what are these tribes in the Balkans are up to. So thank you very much again for your attention.
You can always, thank you, Micho. You can always count on Micho's recul and a unique sense of humor. I decided to switch to English. It would be very weird, me being the only one using Slovak, if I have illustrious friends speak in English. Alexandra, you have come with a basket of points. So tell us a little bit about what motivates you really to be here. Perhaps as an intro on what are the 2 or 3 most important things at this stage that you feel have not yet been sufficiently covered in previous discussions, but really merit our attention. And then I will compensate for all the other lack of discussion, perhaps from the side of the audience, and try to animate a really lively debate. Please.
Thank you, Mario. So, yes, definitely we will change the scale of the discussion. And first of all, I will have a narcissistic answer. Why am I here? I'm here, first of all, because I'm a militant. I'm a militant of European construction. We discussed a lot today about spirituality. And I will tell you, I am a believer. I am a strong believer in Europe. And that's why I am here. And I think that it's the role of a citizen, and more especially of a militant, to fight for Europe and to try to embrace other people. And what can a militant do that for? It's really easy. It's knocking doors. It's talking to people on local market. It's try to convince family, friends, neighbors that they have the possibility of having their voice heard. It's very, very simple. Just go to vote. That's the best way to empower citizens and to have their voice heard. Unfortunately, when we have a look at participation rate, more especially for European election, the rates are quite low. And it's true that more especially in Eastern and Central Europe countries. In 2024, in Slovakia, only 34% of people went to vote. We could say it's a shame, we could say it's a pity, but I'll try to have an optimistic vision of that result. I know it's not very common, coming from a French person, to have an optimistic vision, but I'll try to my best. 34%, it's 11 points more than in 2019. So, that's a good point. And I'm pretty sure that we can all do better for next election. We can all talk to our friends, to our family, to our neighbors, to let them know and that their voice can be heard. So that's one of my daily fight. There's another point that I'd like to raise. We talked several times today about the question of youth people and their place in the public and political debate. I'm very happy because they really had their voice heard today. They really had concrete solution, proposal, and so on. And there's a proof that things can improve. Young people daily challenge private sector. They challenge private employers. They oblige them for transition. We were talking earlier about transition for environmental, social, digital transition, because if big companies want to employ now high educated people, they will have to embrace their wish for having a project and to be part of it. And I'm pretty sure that they will oblige also public sector to do the same. And they have a voice to be heard, and they are here to challenge us. There's another part of the population we didn't mention a lot today. It's the question of women in society. Unfortunately, today, a lot of women don't feel legitimate enough to talk, to be candidate for local election, even to go voting, because I was talking about abstention rate. They are higher coming from female people. Last election, European election in France, I consider it was really a shame to having women voting less than men, because it was exactly the birthday of the right vote of women in France. And after having all these women and men with them fighting for their rights, because it's not just a women issue, it's really a humanity issue, we all have to take our responsibility and go to vote and be candidate and so on. And I consider that a Europe that doesn't include young people, a Europe that doesn't include women, is building on half its strengths. And it's our role, it's your role, it's my role, it's our role, really, to convince citizens, young people, women, to go, to have their voice heard, to go voting, and to act really daily for Europe and for this civilization project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's very, very good. Being a militant for Europe, I was really waiting what comes after the militant. Also, the power of voting and the maybe not always appealing image of Europe to everyone who goes or doesn't go to vote and rather go do something else over the weekend rather than vote. And then the essential question of women. We all have a lot to do, although we have made an effort to avoid these, as they say, manels, right? All male panels. We still have a way to go, but we are committed to the cause. So I promised a discussion. Any immediate reaction, Micho, to what Alexandra had to say?
No, I have actually very old, but no, I don't dare. There was a very old saying when I was much younger. Actually, I was the youngest ever international secretary of the youth organization of ex-Yugoslavia, everything. They expelled me from the party afterwards. But you will forgive me for this, what I'm about to say. So
you
please,
are forgiven.
Thank
Depending
you.
on what you say.
We shall see whether I forgive it. No. There was a friend of ours at the time, Mr. Scholz was the ex-chancellor. He was the president of the Socialist Youth of Germany. And I think I recall him with all the hair and everything. So one of them, when we were talking about the new social movements and the women movements, he said, and I have apologized, he said, I like women movements if they are rhythmical. So, I have apologized. So from that moment, which was 40 years ago, now we have come to the situation where nobody is even dares to joke about something which is a crucial element of democracy. Gender equality is not a theoretical paradigm, it's actually a very concrete thing, you know. And we have, and I agree, we have a regression in a number of our countries, talking about the Western Balkans, about the rights of women, even to the extent that during socialist Yugoslavia, communist Yugoslavia, however we want to describe that, the women's rights were more present and more visible, and the women participation was actually, women are more active in social and political life than is the case today. So we have a historic regression, which is now being, if I may, gender equality is now being, how they call it now in America, they ridicule this new right, this Trumpian, how do you call it, new conservative right, MAGA movement, they actually despise the very idea of talking about gender equality. So European idea, and that is where is the link. European idea is actually one of the basic elements is gender equality of the European idea. And of course, the equality for specific groups, for minorities and everything. Where now, actually, long story short, and I end with that, United States have left that boat. They have left that boat, and they are showing that on a daily basis in a way which is on one side ridiculous, on the other side very dramatic and painful.
Thank you for that. I will take out of the bullets that we have here on panel 4 two key questions, I think, that we might want to address. One, and I have it in Slovak, so I'll be recalling what I put in the English agenda previously, the belief in Europe. How do we inspire people to again feel excitement for the European idea? Our common future, what is the kind of Europe we want to live in 2050? And then everyday steps. And here's the entry point for anyone from the audience here and elsewhere. What can we do every day? What can we do right after this panel in order to make a small step forward? So those are the million-dollar questions. Hands are raising on Anna. 2050, a Europe in 2050. I believe you have something to say, right? Where's the mic, please? Anka, would you please wait for the mic?
She can speak from there.
Well, you can speak from there. Anka has a mic already. If you want to speak in parallel.
Áno. Som veľmi rada, že I am very glad to see how our panels work. But let me talk about the vision of 2050. I discuss or deal with the European space because I was born there and I've lived there for 50 years. But I am seeing it from the point of view of a person who is looking not only on the physical part, but also on the spiritual part. And I would like to rely on Carl Gustav Jung, who was one of the greatest psychologists of Europe and who was a globetrotter. And his vision was that in near future, we should expect a new superpower greater than USA, USSR, China, whatever, and that's the superpower of the spirit, of the soul. So I was trying to search for the origins of his vision, and my vision for 2050, based on his scientific findings, is that it is a reality because our mind is much stronger than any weapons. And it was supported by Allport, an American psychologist who lived in times where the black men were segregated. And he and his team of psychologists studied why stereotypes and prejudice is there against the black people. He managed to eliminate it, and he said that it is easier to break an atom than a prejudice. And I think this is a challenge for Europe. We are on a crossroads, and we either take the road of or path of India, which is on the path of the soul. I have been many times in India in my 50 years career, and I dare say that I do see the vision. Although there is still not time has come, and we have to go through those military projects. There is Lamarckism. Lamarck was a great psychiatrist and a great European, and he is the student of Carl Gustav Jung. So he has the vision of getting back to Lamarckism, then to Darwin, which was earlier than Darwinism, and that was based on the power of cooperation. In Darwinism, there is a cooperation, but a relative one within the family or a sports club, but not a universal cooperation. But on the other hand, Lamarck took over Darwinism, the evolutional part, but did not take into account the cooperation. And then Kevin Darke, one of a psychiatrist from Switzerland, he is the supporter of this and understood that what is the force or the power of our mind. So if we're stuck in Darwinism, our mind does not develop. But if I understand that there is not just my lower myself that had been named today as ego, but there is a higher myself, my soul, that is a path to use our mental potential that is today used only at 7%. As Europe is focused especially only on our outer world, we've changed institutions, we change politicians, prime ministers, etc., etc. We're still in a vicious circle, but we miss one point. It is important to concentrate on our mind and understood that 50 and more % of what has caused this storm we are talking about is in a completely different sense and meaning. I'm not going to talk about in the details of diagnosis. Politicians are deemed in some countries as psychopaths. And this was a topic that I was invited with to Freiburg Parliament. And this is, I guess, something that we should start think about.
Of course. I wanted to say that before I give, I want to see another hand in the audience. Ivo's hand. Who else has a hand? Greg has a hand. Mayo has a hand. Excellent. You want to take that before yourself? It's okay? All right. Ivo, you decide whether you want to go.
The microphone is here, so I want to say something more about Anna said that maybe there is a good task force, or could be organized good task force in our circle to find why this Darwinism, in fact, occupy this basic education. Because there is not only Darwinism, there are many other things which already, I know physics, mathematics. So in physics, practically many things we even study in the secondary stage. It's not valid. It's not valid because we have this quantum physics. We have this all items on which the IT is based. So even 5 years old child now knows more in these 5 years than the teacher of physics 20 years ago. So, and this is the next of the source of disharmony about which Anna spoke. She mentioned this guy Jung, who is from 19th century. So we can, and I have education in that engineer of power energy, and then there were the essential equations are from 19th century as well. Is this born? And then we have Einstein in the first decades of 20th century. And because of Einstein, we practically did these atom bombs. So today's the main, we can say, what we want to do in Europe, to have really the reliable deterrence against the nuclear bombs of the others. I can say we have, yeah, thanks to France, thanks to de Gaulle decision somewhere half a century ago, we have.
Well, the UK has a deterrent too.
And the UK is with us, so no problem. That is what, that maybe if there could be one result of today's discussion, that there will be some special task force how to make the new basics for education of pupils. I have a daughter, 12 years old, so I know I have practical experience. What is the difference of today's 5 years, 7 years old people and when we were children, this 50 years ago? It's a tremendous difference. So this is like my suggestion to say what Anna initiated, to make some task force for a new education, which will be valid for that period. About Jan Figel has spoken that we should be on the level of 21st century.
Thank you.
Still the many things in this political sphere is there that majority of politicians are still living in 19th century. Political parties are practically 19th century scheme. It's not more valid for children up to 15 years. It's laughing at some this system we are doing. Why we are doing? Nobody can believe to this more.
2 suggestions. Whoever wants to be part of a new task force on education, talk to Ivo in the coffee break. Second thing, we may want to consider for the next iteration of our conference is to really have a focus, a panel possibly or more, on education specifically. So thank you very much for that. Micho, ready?
Thank you, Mario. I think concerning your question, going back to your question, 2050 is, we are living in a very accelerated history, so it's a long time from now to 2050. I think that major issue concerning democracy and participation in democracy, female or male, whatever, citizen participation, that it's in decline. And it's becoming more and more superficial. And you will allow me not to quote anyone from Germany from 40 years ago, without apology. In this context, we had the last, for example, elections in the US where even idiotic ideas were considered serious enough to be the platform for certain decision of citizens there, you know. And that is the degradation of the democratic process as such.
I think that would require an example.
Yeah. For example, if you don't, I mean, obviously half of citizens there don't understand that tariffs are not being paid by the producers, but by the consumers, which is elementary. And if you can fool or trick or confuse half of the electorate with such a simple mistake, then we have a problem. illiteracy, so a non-sufficient level of elementary democratic literacy is something which is present in this particular moment, unfortunately and tragically enough, in the United States. First. Second, to answer your question, concerning Europe, it's not the matter whether we are EU now, the present members of EU, or the future members, potential hypothetical members, whether we are going to be more or less democratic. The question from looking from 2025 to 2050 is what Europe is going to represent in a quarter of century from now, whether it's going to be relevant or not, you know? Because I am on the side, I am among the people who believe that maybe Mr. Mario Draghi, okay, the former Prime Minister, the former Director of the European Central Bank and everything, is right saying that the future of Europe is in the United States of Europe, meaning a federation-like configuration in the future to make European Union and European civilization, even if you want, taking also into account the eastern flank of Europe, meaning Ukraine, Georgia, so on and so forth, Moldova, is actually the only future which would secure the role of Europe in global issues. Otherwise, it's not going to be a question who participates in democratic process or whether democratic rules have improved or have been degraded in 25 years from now. It's going to be, is it relevant what's going in Europe for the globe as such, for the world as such? I think that's the main problem. That is the main problem. What is the purpose of European Union or the European unity in such a unforeseeable future? Although, as I repeat, we live in a very accelerated history, and 25 years today is actually a much longer period when it was 25 years back in the 19th century. So I think these are two issues there. I mean, participation of democracy, in democracy, the level of democratic literacy on one side, and the purpose of the political configuration which is called EU. That's it. And these are not my ideas. Thank you very much.
I'll give the floor to Alexandra, and then we will go to Greg, I believe, yes, and then to Mayo.
I think you were talking about populism, and it's true that in the US, for last election, the participation rate has never been that high because people thought that everything was decided behind their back. It's the same also in France. I was talking about last European election, and in the country I know the most, in France, we are the country which sent the most extreme right MEPs to Brussels and Strasbourg. We, country of Robert Schuman, Simone Veil, Jean Monnet, we are the country with the highest number of extreme right MEPs. Ouch. So, how can we let people know? How can we convince them that no, things are not decided behind their back? Perhaps we need a new method. It was newly elected President Macron's proposal in 2017. He gave an amazing speech in La Sorbonne, a speech so ambitious for Europe, for European construction, saying that we have to change the methods, we have to involve citizens, we have to stop building Europe behind their back. And after saying that, you say, and so what? So we tried some new initiative, for instance, the Conférence sur l'avenir de l'Europe, this citizen convention, held in 2021, 2022. It was not perfect, but it was a try, and it's something we have to have a look at and perhaps to improve and to reinitiate.
How did that work, the convention?
The convention is really to involve citizens to ask their opinion on really concrete issues, and not only ask them, do you agree or do you disagree, but also, what do you want? What do you want for Europe? What do you want for environment? What do you want for economy? And it can be very concrete. But to be very concrete, we also have to say that Europe is not only decided in Brussels and Strasbourg. Neither in Berlin, neither in Paris, and so on. Europe is decided everywhere. People can do Europe in Fréjus or Toulouse in France. They do Europe in Nuremberg, Germany. They do Europe in Napoli, Italy. In Nitra, Slovakia. And so on. And really, Europe has to be organized, discussed, and is a matter of territories and people living in the territories. Having said so, and so what? We tried in France to develop some new actions, new events, and we will have, during the whole year 2025, organized by my political party, Mouvement Démocrate, together with IED, some action organized in territories, in regions. It will be in Vesoul, in Toulouse, and so on. Debate with non-expert participants. Debates to connecting local voice with European policy. For instance, talking about competitivity, it's okay. But talking about competitivity in Toulouse means, okay, what with the aeronautics sector? Because that's a sector. Yep. And we will have all these events organized with people to let them speak, listen, debate, and more especially, feel heard. And that's that kind of very concrete action we as organization can all organize in our territories. And this kind of debates can be organized with 10 to 20 people, even less. You can do that in a cafe, just ask for an issue, for themes, and then debate, organize, and try to find solution which answer to your problem. That's perhaps a clue. Not the best one, but I think it was a try.
Return to the people who many times never in their life have they seen a politician in a small village, and when they have, they were the extremists, who know that very well. We've seen that here. I would also say sarcastically, it's not about the number of populists that you send to the European Parliament, it's also about the quality. And I think there, we can have our own rankings in the quality of populists that you send to the European Parliament, not just the numbers. Greg, please, where's the flying mic? And then Mayo right away. Mayo, get ready.
Regarding civic participation, one of the best examples of civic participation is certainly participation, what we're doing now through NGOs, through civil society organizations.
Speak up, please.
Whatever your training or your experience or your work experience is, pick a cause and contribute either time or money or both to a good civil society organization. An excellent example of the power of civil society was 27 years ago here in Slovakia. After the Velvet Revolution, for those of you who may not be aware, Slovak politics was dominated by an authoritarian populist demagogue. Until 1998, when it was realized that Slovakia had a choice to make. Either they elected a more democratic form of government, or they were going to fall behind in the race to the EU. The civil society organizations got together and had a campaign called OK98 campaign, Občanský campaign. Their objective was to get people out to vote. They didn't tell them who to vote for, they just got them out to vote. And I think they had something like 84% first-time voters voted. They literally changed Slovakia's political perspective from looking eastward to looking towards democracy and respect for human rights and rule of law in Western Europe, as it was in Western Europe. They literally changed the face of things. It wasn't opposition politicians that did it, it was Slovak civil society. And for you young people who are members of civil society, I encourage you to talk to the Institute for Public Affairs and get the history of OK98 campaign, because it was really fabulous. I had an opportunity as a human rights lawyer to be an advisor to the campaign. It was an amazing experience. Secondly, as I'm a human rights lawyer, my work for the last 30 years has been to help people understand what international human rights laws and standards mean in a practical sense. For example, I work with medical students at Comenius University, showing how human rights applies to them as physicians. I work with social protection workers. I work with housing workers and so on. So learn and use those standards as a moral compass rather than just merely liberal or conservative politics on the national scale. But use those as a compass, a moral compass, because they're objective. They're laws. They're laws that every country signs and ratifies and obligates themselves to legally. Those two things. Thank you.
I would also add, thank you very much. I would also add, not only, let's say, teach, make them more visible. The UN Declaration of Human Rights is an awesome document. I mean, if you read it, decades later than it was written, but also call out everyone who tramples on those rights, whether they be left, right, you name it, everyone. Actor agnostic approach, right? Whoever peddles disinformation, a lie that harms someone, you call them out. And you will eventually discover the authoritarians in the world in that, but you may not only discover those, right? There's a common basis that needs to be, I think, called out on those very basic values that we all hold dear. Because then it's into partisan, perhaps, into reductionist, what have you, right? Whoever, they will be called, you will be called out. Demagog SK, an online initiative, fact-checking initiative, is calling out everyone, left, right, center, on lies in the public space. Thank you. Majo.
Well, I don't want to sound as a skeptic, but let's add a little.
I rely on you to do that.
Okay, then let me sound like a skeptic. So, about the mobilization of the public, we had a quite lovely mobilization back in before 2020 election, and then it finished as it finished, right, in Slovakia. You spoke about mobilizing people for the European elections and then the populists coming in, right? In the United States, they had a lovely mobilization just the last election, and it finished as it finished. I saw today a meme. There is this person of the age of my parents looking at the computer and saying, how could this not be true? How could this not be true if it is exactly what I'm thinking? So we've got plenty of disinformation coming and not so much rationalism. People are not always responsive to rational appeals when speaking to them. Oftentimes you tell them something, they seem like they are listening, then you come back to them and they haven't changed a bit. So this is my concern. You know, currently we have voices in the government, let's say, or on the high echelons that are speaking for people who haven't been heard, let's say, and I'm speaking exactly of the plenipotentiary for the COVID management thing, right? He's speaking the voice of many people who haven't been heard for a long time. So how to approach this cognitive dissonance in people's thinking?
I'm tempted, but I will not consider it a rhetorical question. Do we have anything? Do we have something to say to this? One, the paradox of the get out the vote campaigns, that it can actually get out the supporters of extremism. Yes?
Not only that, we have in the Balkans the issue that this extreme right nationalist, national chauvinistic forces are, how to say, cooperating, or cross-border cooperation in the context when there is, for example, voting in Serbia. You have, inverted commas, Serbs coming from Bosnia and Montenegro to vote in Serbia for the right-wing candidates, and vice versa. When we recently had the local elections in second Montenegrin city of Nikšić, second biggest city, and there were detected thousands of voters coming from entity of Republika Srpska with a clear mind to vote. And since my only social function now, I'm the president of the Helsinki Committee for Human Rights and Liberties. So I'm also, and I thank the gentleman, the lawyer who mentioned this is a very, I didn't want to oppress you with these issues, but let me explain to you what is actually, as we speak, what is the concrete problem where we have human rights and how everything is interconnected, including the attitude of Brussels towards the enlargement process or European agenda in, for example, Montenegro. So 2 days ago, if you believe, of course, we have a Speaker of Parliament. The gentleman is self-proclaimed Chetnik Duke, which is, Chetniks were the Quislings during the Second World War, so he's a kind of, he has a rank in the organization with the roots in the Second World War as a Quisling movement. So he is now the Speaker of Montenegrin Parliament. He has employed his own nephew, a gentleman, a young fellow who has a criminal record, who is registered as a criminal, who also spent some time in jail for the very violent crimes. And he employed him to be his bodyguard. And that bodyguard, since this year we celebrated Easter in the same day, and both variations of Christianity, it was in the same date, which I like. And that youngster who is with a criminal record, who is a nephew of the Speaker of the Parliament, he took his official weapon and his official car, and he attacked two other criminals downtown Podgorica, the capital. Wounded two of them, okay? So many organizations, including Helsinki Committee, we asked for, how to say, prompt and decisive reaction of the authorities, not only police, but also the prosecutor's office, to indict and to, how to say, prosecute that criminal. Long story short, now we have the situation that two wounded people have testified that they are not wounded, they don't recognize who has wounded them, and they claim that everything is invented, although they are wounded. So the bottom line is very simple. It's not the problem of the Speaker of the Parliament, or not only his problem, or the problem of the Ministry of Interior, or the prosecutor's office. We still don't have a single official reaction about this blatant, this obvious mafiosi type of, how to say, activity from the European Union administration. Nothing. The other day, one of the deputy prime ministers of Montenegro, Mr. Ivanovic, was in questioned by the parliamentarians, and there was a question by one of the parliamentarians, European Parliament members, and he said, this deputy prime minister said, "Oh no, I'm not informed about that. I'm really surprised that you asked me such an awkward question." So these are the issues when it comes to human rights, legality, rule of law, this kind of stuff. And where we need, and I do agree, Europe is being decided also in Banska Bystrica. It's not only Naples or these kind of places. You are right on one side, but on the other side, without the leadership of those people in the European Union who objectively, who realistically have the power to move things, we should not move things. So this is, as we speak, this is a major scandal back home in Montenegro where, and I end with that, even the delegation of EU in Montenegro, Ambassador Sattler, who is Austrian, needless to say, right-wing party, very close to Russia and everything, nevertheless, he didn't say a word yet about the situation. And then we are, how to say, we are surprised that people lose the confidence in Europe as an idea, or European Union as a perspective, or European agenda as the main political process in our country. When they see that it's possible in this kind of, allow me to say, fascist/mafiosi style, people who are in the institutions of the state of Montenegro, the country, can do whatever they want. They proclaim, so nothing has happened officially, and no one reacts from Brussels. And that is actually the wall of reality we should fight with. It's not only proclamation that we should participate in the democratic process. We should do something about concrete problems which actually tackles with rule of law, legality, constitutionality, and democracy as such. I'm sorry to oppress you about these unfortunate events, but this is what, and I know that even here in the period which was nominated after Velvet Revolution, you had a downfall here in Slovakia for a number of years for the same reasons, for the same pattern of behavior. So now we are facing that, and nobody from Europe, including Mrs. Marta Kos, is saying anything.
So, we are nearing the happy end. And gentlemen, you have exactly 30 seconds to tell us what's on your mind.
Áno, ja sa budem snažiť, už som sa predstavil a budem sa snažiť byť idealista.
Yes, I will try to be ideal, positivist. Although when I was 50 years old, I burned out because I was a naive activist in that people's democracy and later in this plurality democracy. But it all happened because I started to focus on Chinese healing Qigong. Since then, I have been devoted to these areas, understanding that this problem is not mental but moral. Life is productive, pragmatic outcome. We don't need a natural person. We don't need him, her mobilized. They have it. If we approach it in this way, we may succeed in one decade, just like Velvet Revolution has come in 89, when we naively believed to have a better life. But through those 35 years of plurality democracy, we have not progressed. You may not have a democracy where kings and institutions rule. Democracy can be only naturally human. So natural humanism is very important because there every person is naturally wise and moral. Evolution speaks about it. When Anka has mentioned Barta, who spoke about the collapse of civilization, let us remind ourselves of the Huma, who spoke about succession of civilizations, and Victor Emmanuel Frank would be another one to teach us about it. He lived 4 years in a concentration camp, and still he believed that life is worth to live. So we shouldn't focus on institutions. I have remained optimist, and I wish you all to experience that transition. I have experienced it, but it has taken me 20 years when I started to understand mysticists and scientists. So let's learn this approach. Thank you very much.
If we may keep it short. What is the one thing that you suggest people do right after this panel ends in order to make this world a better place?
Defeat Russia and liberate Ukraine. That is about us all. It's ridiculous. Even we are in Slovakia. I don't want to mention any names, but people are pretty short-sighted if they consider that it doesn't deal with our lives. What's going on in Ukraine? It's about us all. It's absolutely of paramount historic relevance. Ukraine to be liberated, and the last ideas of Mr. Marco Rubio and the 47th Trump 47 administration concerning Ukraine and Crimea is actually confirmed, unfortunately, that that is the case. You cannot compromise liberty, you cannot compromise the very basic values of European idea. And if you allow the occupation to be confirmed and taken as such, then we are all in jeopardy. So I think that the historically necessary defeat of Russia is something which is of our common interest.
Slava Ukraini.
It's true that the situation is really tough now. It's true that it's really legitimate to be angry. But it's true also that we all need some perspective, and we need to build our own perspective. Europe, let's be honest, it's not something we are waiting for. It's something we build together. So after that meeting, just be prepared to work. Europe will not do anything for you, but you can do something for the Europe you want and you need. Even fighting, and more especially fighting.
Thank you very much. Alexandra, Micho, thank you very much for a wonderful panel. Gabi, if you would agree, let's take a breather for a maximum 5 minutes, and then we will oppress, in Micho's terms, others with a short summary of the event, a wrap-up, and that will give us a ticket to the glass of wine right afterwards. Okay, thank you so much.